Welcome again and good afternoon. My name is Maria Giuffrida. I'm from StandICT. Is the technical coordinator of StandICT project. StandICT 2026 is of course composed by other partners. You will see one with me today who is Knut, the main leader of the StandICT Academy, but there are also others like DCU, OFE, Digital SME Alliance, Australo, together with us in the consortium. So this webinar is going to be dedicated to presenting the insights from the European Standardisation Panel Survey, which was launched by the Commission last year. And we will see some of the results today, but we will comment them also with other guests and put them into the perspective of, hearing the needs of industry and research projects in terms of standardization across multiple perspectives. The event will last roughly 2 hours, and it's a continuation of an ongoing effort of the StandICT Standards Academy. Only this year, we have already delivered successfully 3 webinars. You see here the banners. We started in January with one on geopolitics of ICT standardization. Then we did a session on standardization for research projects together with HSBooster. And then the last one was in March, focused on open source and standardization. Today's event has a pretty rich agenda, as I said, so we will start after my very brief introduction. We will start with a presentation by Gergo Tardos from DG RTD on the role of standardization for knowledge valorization. Then we will have a presentation regarding the experience of Sensenelec and the role in the standardization panel survey from Lydia Mian. Then the results of the survey indeed from Knut, representing Fraunhofer and StandICT, and then we will also listen to the recommendations by Sine of Danish Standards, who is a partner of HSBooster, one of our sister projects, let's say. I see some of you have raised their hands. Okay, so you are signaling a problem in the chat, so thanks for raising this. I will try to solve it soon. Before doing that, I will just finish, let's say, my introduction. So I want to basically highlight the next episode of the webinars of the StandICT Standards Academy that we have. We have the next one already planned next week on the 27th of May with a focus on India. And it's a second episode of the Geopolitics of ICT Standardization series of events. And also we have further opportunities and events coming from StandICT in the next month or so. We have in the moment application form open for becoming an evaluators of our open calls. I will put all these links also in the chat once I solve this issue. And we are organizing another very interesting webinar on the 6th of June, focused on the relationship between human rights and ICT standardization. I will give you the links to register for all of these if you are interested. Just one note that I said also in the beginning, the event is being recorded and the slides will be made available on our YouTube and website at the end of the event. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, but you can ask questions beforehand in the Q&A box and in the chat that I'm going to enable in a moment. In the chat, I will also put, other useful links as soon as our speakers present. So without further ado, these are our social media channels. I think we can start the webinar, and I will share the screen, keep sharing the screen for Gergo for his presentation. So Gergo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, and good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you on behalf of the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation. where I work as a policy officer for the unit responsible for knowledge valorization policies and IPR. This unit where I work is relatively new in this house in DG Research and Innovation, just created 5 years ago with the ultimate goal to demonstrate that investing in R&I cannot end at the project results, but it has to be ensured that these results are ready for the market, and there should be some tools that brings these results to the market. If I may have the next, please. Just a snapshot actually to frame what we're talking about when we refer to standardization as a knowledge valorization channel. So it's obvious, or maybe already a common sense, that there are many benefits for entities, organizations, and individuals involved in R&I if they engage in international or European standard development processes, especially if they are operating in innovative and or new emerging technology areas. As you can see it on the diagram, the standards help the construction of customer trust and confidence in new technologies. And this contributes very significantly to mass market diffusion and the adoption of related products and services. With one word, with another word, we could say that standards help to bridge the innovation gap between research and the global markets by enabling efficient and effective knowledge and technology transfer, which of course results in maximizing the society, economic, and environmental benefits and valuable impacts from R&I activities. And standardization is also a very powerful networking platform for interacting with fellow researchers and innovators, basically globally. The next, please. So the political landscape in the last 3-4 years has very much supported this approach. First, the European Industrial Strategy, then the Standardization Strategy, which made this approach very explicit. And this has really strongly manifested that inside the European Union, there is a new way focusing on standardization as means of knowledge valorization. There are other very important policy initiatives that strengthen the framing of this approach. Just to name a couple of them: the Communication on the European Economic Security Strategy, the CHIPS Act, or the proposal for the Artificial Intelligence Act, or the Commission recommendation on critical technology areas for the EU's economic security, for instance. All these initiatives say that the EU needs to ensure leadership in international standard setting in line with its values, strategic interests, and also with its legal acquis. So in DG Research and Innovation, we have been working on a systemic frame to support of the R&I uptake, including via standardization. And this journey and this policymaking journey started in 2020 with the overall idea to explore what the Commission could do in order to valorize the results of excellent research projects and to define and develop different channels for knowledge valorization. As you can see it on this slide, which gives you a schematic picture of these knowledge valorization channels. So already back at the very beginning of this journey, back in 2020, we published a policy review on knowledge valorization. You can see here the main actors, the channels, and the tools to be used. It's very interesting to say that back then, in this purple box, which was called IP management and standardization, basically standardization was only a sub-channel. But today, we can say without exaggeration that it is one of the most important channels. And this is clearly reflected by its position on the political agenda. The next one, please. So parallel to the evolution of the EU political agenda, we have been working on the implementation of the Action 7 of the European Research Area Communication, which says that we need to translate the results into the economy and ensure market uptake. So how are we doing this? We are giving guiding principles to stakeholders and member states for knowledge valorization. So the strategy is the guiding principles for knowledge valorization were adopted by the Council of the European Union in December 2022, which gives a very, very strong endorsement to the whole EU in terms of what to do in R&I valorization. The idea was to do what specifically the different actors in the ecosystem could do to support their valorization activities. And the ultimate features were to broaden the scope by focusing on the entire R&I ecosystem and to incentivize all stakeholders to hop on the train and implement new approaches to knowledge valorization, including standardization. So these guiding principles are being implemented by a set of codes of practice. The goal was to develop one code per each knowledge valorization channel. So the code of practice on the management of intellectual assets and the code of practice on standardization were adopted on the 1st of March 2023 as Commission recommendation. And the two new codes were adopted on the 1st of March this year, one on industry-academia collaboration and one on citizens' engagement. The next one, please. So going back again, referring to one of the most important political documents is the standardization strategy, which includes a chapter on cutting-edge innovation that fosters timely standards. So this communication referred to standardization as a new channel for knowledge valorization with two focus. One, on strengthening the link between standardization and R&I through the European research area, and to enable Horizon Europe to bridge the gap between R&I results and market uptake of R&I results. So the document clearly refers to the fact there is an untapped potential in EU-funded pre-normative research in supporting future trends in standardization. So as you see, highlighted two elements, the code of practice and the standardization booster, which is a platform to support Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe results are likely to lead to the rendered relevance of the results for standardization. But the strategy also envisages the engagement of the R&I community early on in standard development, raises strategic awareness of standardization, builds expertise and skills in standardization, promotes EU interest and values through standards, and addresses so-called standardization urgencies in green and digital technologies. The next one, please. So as I refer to the standardization knowledge valorization channel is being implemented by the aforementioned Code of Practice on Standardization, which proposes a set of recommendations on how beneficiaries of public R&I programs can best identify opportunities and techniques to exploit their project results through standardization. The recommendations are based on common success factors of projects analyzed by a scoping study. And the recommendations are clustered in three groups. First, at institutional level, secondly, at project partners level, and thirdly, at policy making level. Very importantly, inclusivity of the approaches is highly relevant, meaning that from lower technology readiness levels up to higher technology readiness levels, the interventions or the is relevant for basically across the board. As for instance, that lower TRLs are associated with, for instance, some terminologies and concepts, metrology and testing. The later stage TRLs are typically concerned with issues such as interoperability and performance of the technology innovation. So to conclude, standards and across all TRLs are really important for the R&I actors. So if I may have the next. So just to bridge these actions, policy initiatives with the European Standardization Panel Survey, so how we came to the conclusion that something is missing in the equation. So we realized that despite the progress in recent years, the standardization research continued to be somewhat in the shadow in comparison to broader innovation research. And this is primarily due to the fact that, of course, there is a fantastic, excellent theoretical reviews on the topic. No comparative empirical data was available at European level. This already in itself served as a sufficient incentive to launch such an initiative. But perhaps even more importantly, the survey project, the panel survey project, has a very strong complementary nature to the already existing initiatives. Because the previously mentioned code of practice and the standardization booster is mainly focusing on the supply side, meaning how R&I results can be linked to existing standards or how they can contribute to new ones. We wanted to understand the full picture, and therefore we thought we need to understand the industry's interest in this regard. It's very important to make sure that industry is well aware of the benefits of standardization and policymakers understand their demands for standards. So in this aspect, the role of the German standardization panel survey had proven to be very crucial. This specific survey ran for about 10 years and contributed in a large extent to the match in the supply of standards coming from R&I results and the demand based on the needs of industry. So based on the success of the model, we explored how Horizon Europe could support a similar initiative at European level. And by this initiative, we wanted to better understand the current activities and future trends of companies, which will serve as an important input to standardization policymakers and other interested parties. So the survey basically is therefore a complementary action to the code of practice by also helping the understanding of what demand is at industry side, and also supports the the awareness of the importance of standardization for businesses. So the project of the survey ran from April 23 until January 2024. The survey itself was out between October and December 2023, with over 3,700 responses from across Europe, predominantly from industry sectors. And indeed, the survey underscored the need of policy initiatives covering regulations, customer requirements, mainly within industry. But it also highlighted the significance of independent and collaborative research endeavors as crucial sources for standard development. So the findings are targeting large variety of stakeholders, including industry players, higher education institutions, public research organizations, standard development organizations, research funding bodies, and other policymakers, with the overall aim to bridge the gap between industry demand for R&I driven standards and the existing supply landscape. But I would stop here now, as Knut will later guide us through the outcomes and the recommendations of this important project. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Gergo, for your introduction and presentation. I don't know if anyone has already a question, a comment, or a curiosity for this initial presentation. Feel free to put it in the chat so we don't wait the end, or we'll have, in any case, a separate session after the other presentations. I don't see questions coming at the moment, also in the Q&A box. So I think we can continue for now with the lineup of presentations. And so I leave the floor to Livia. I see you already sharing your screen. We can see it perfectly. So thank you very much, Gergo, again, and thank you, Livia. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria, and good afternoon, everyone. On my side, I'll represent the position of SAN and SANELEC, where SAN is the European Committee for Standardization and SANELEC the European Committee for Electrotechnical Standardization. And these are two of the three officially recognized European Standard Development Organization alongside with ETSI. Between SAN and SANELEC, we bring together 43 national standardization bodies from 34 European countries in a system that is well connected with our counterparts at international level, which is ISO in the case of SAN and IC in the case of SANELEC. I'm happy to be part of this webinar discussing the results and recommendations from the European Standardization Panel Survey, because this is an initiative where we have been involved since the beginning, and we believe it's an important project to give visibility to standardization, but also to investigate industry needs for research-based standards. More specifically, we have been involved in the development of the survey because the SAN and SANELEC Presidential Committee had the opportunity to review the draft questions and propose some comments to the draft survey before it was sent out. We have disseminated and promoted the visibility of the survey toward our members and network to increase the response rate, and we have the pleasure to participate in the preliminary workshop where these results and initial recommendations were discussed. So now that the final recommendation from the European Standardization Panel Survey are out, we are pleased to see that they are quite well aligned with our own strategic goals, specifically defined in our SAN-SANELEC Strategy 2030. Indeed, our ambition to better integrate standardization with research is well recognized in our strategic framework, specifically in goal number 4 of our strategy 2030, which seeks to develop and welcoming standardization system where researchers and innovators are encouraged to bring forward their idea for the development of new standards. And this ambition is also quite well reflected and aligns with our own strategy in the European Standardization Strategy, specifically in the chapter 4, which is the one that seeks to better promote the link between research projects and development of new standards, and in chapter number 5, which is recognizing the importance of building a future generation of standards maker and investing in skills and education. We are absolutely convinced that our standardization system needs to connect with research, first of all, because it helps bring new, fresh ideas coming from scientific development, which are needed for developing new standards, as well as for updating and revising standards that are already published. Involving researchers in the technical committees that develop standards help increasing the diversity and inclusiveness of the European standardization system. And most of all, involving young researchers and students is vital to ensure sustainability of the standardization system and make sure that we will have standard developers in the future, also able to deal with new innovative technologies where standards need to be developed. To achieve that, we are trying to make sure that our system is fit for purpose for welcoming input coming from research and innovation, and make sure that the solution that SAN and SANELEC are providing are appropriately meeting the need of speed coming from research and innovation projects. Specifically, 2 tools that we are offering are the project liaison, which is the formal mechanism that allows research projects to formally establish a collaboration with a technical committee active in the same field of activity where they can feed their input and where they can be exposed to ongoing standardization work. And then another tool that we promote is the SAN-SANELEC Workshop Agreement, which is a pre-standardization deliverable designed to meet immediate needs coming from research and innovation results, and that can be used as a fast track and stepping stone for future standardization activity, because the CWA can then later on be upgraded and converted into a full European standard. Specifically, we have a StandICT guide number 23, which explain the process and the different tools for embedding research input into standardization activity. We are also investing a lot in raising awareness and educating about standardization toward the research and innovation community, promoting the role of standardization as a knowledge valorization track, as Gergo was explaining. And in doing this, the European Commission Code of Practice on Standardization has been quite significant milestone for helping us promoting the visibility of standardization in the knowledge valorization area. We are also trying to raise awareness internally within our standardization expert and community on the benefit of linking standardization activity with research projects. And we are trying to invest in educating a future generation of standards maker and attracting university students and professors. Specifically, we have the pleasure to be part of a project called Edu for Standards, in which SAN is involved alongside different partners, where we are going to develop a series of national academic standard days to bring together academic community, standardization professional, and invest into building skills for standardization for the future. We are also aware that we need to dedicate significant efforts in recognizing researchers for the contribution they are making to standardization. To this end, we launched a few years ago an award scheme, Standards Plus Innovation Awards, which has now reached its 6th edition this year. Which gives award into 4 categories: an individual researchers, a research project, young researcher, and a technical body officer on a yearly basis. We are currently looking for nomination for this year edition of the awards. So if you want to be nominated, know someone who has merits for being nominated, please reach out or connect with your national standardization body who can promote your nomination. We are also aware that researchers need help to demonstrate where their contribution to standardization is supporting the performance of their organization. And to this end, a simple action that we are pursuing is making the bibliography of European standards publicly available on our website, so that researchers can prove when a reference to a scientific paper or article is included in the bibliography of a standard, to prove when their scientific contribution has been instrumental for the development of a standard. More long-term and the more ambitious action that we are trying to invest on is to influence the assessment scheme used by university and research organization to make sure that standardization is recognized as part of the range of activities upon which researchers are evaluated, so that it counts as a metrics upon which researchers are evaluated, and it motivates them to be more engaged in standardization, also seeing a return in terms of their performance and career progression. So going back to the European Standardization Panel Survey recommendation, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, we are pleased to see that the recommendations are well aligned with our approach in promoting a better link between standardization and research. Obviously, we take note of the recommendation addressed to standard development organization, and we believe this aligns well with our approach in ensuring that standardization system is fit for purpose and delivering attractive solutions for the research community. Regarding the recommendation to industry, of course, industry is one of the main drivers in the standard development process. So we support increasing awareness of the benefits of participating in standardization for industry, and especially for SME and research active SME who may have who may encounter bottlenecks and barriers when trying to get involved in standardization. Regarding recommendation for higher education institution and public research organization, Of course, we believe it's important to raise awareness about standardization and encourage them to consider standardization as a means for knowledge valorization where they can be involved, and also encouraging them to develop, as I said before, appropriate assessment scheme and KPI to measure performance related to standardization. Regarding recommendation addressed to research funding organization, we support expanding financial support to standardization as a means of exploitation of research results. We see this is more and more recognized into Horizon Europe and could be more considered also in other funding scheme, also as part of funding scheme at national or regional level. And lastly, regarding the recommendation addressing other area of innovation policy, we think the recommendation to this target group are pointing out new avenues to be explored. For example, we really like the idea of exploring the tax benefit incentive to be extended also to standardization expenditure to give an incentive for industry to be more involved into standardization. So in summary, we think that this recommendation from the European Standardization Panel survey are raising many interesting points, and we look forward to seeing how this recommendation will be followed up and how we, StandICT, can be part of the journey to ensure that we follow up on this recommendation and facilitate a better connection between research results and standardization. These are just websites that you can visit for more information, and there is the email address of our research desk where we are happy to receive questions. And this concludes my presentation. You have also my direct email address in case you would like to engage bilaterally, and I'm open for questions now or later. Maria, I give you back the floor.
Thank you very much, Livia. Indeed, we got a question during your speech, which I think was more general. So anyone who wants to address it can do so. I gave a preliminary answer based on my view and my perspective and knowledge of existing projects, but of course anyone else can react. It came from Jan, and I also saw that Knut asked a clarification in the chat about this question. I don't know if you can see it in the Q&A. It's basically a comment from Jan, commenting on the fact that it's very difficult for research projects to contribute to standards, and I mentioned some initiatives. If anyone wants to add, you can do now, or you can write in the chat. I think everyone can properly see it. There is someone who raised their hand, so let me check. Let's go in the order I see here, if you don't mind. Yeah, we have time, so I'll ask Sabine to speak first. I think, Sabine, you can ask your question if you like.
No, sorry. I think I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, sorry. I thought it lowers automatically after a while. Sorry.
No problem. You're welcome to speak. It's an interactive as much as possible event. So I don't know if Christian and Michael, you instead want to say something, or it's the hand is raised by mistake. Please let me know in the chat if you want to be given the floor to speak. I see Christian Orkert and Michael Aschke, sorry for the pronunciation, who raised their hand. Let me know later, okay, in the chat if you wanna speak, and I'll give you the floor. In the meantime, I think Knut, I can give you the floor, and you can start your presentation, or if you wanna comment on the comments we got in the Q&A.
No, thank you, Maria. There are also some questions in the Q&A section, but I think we can answer them maybe towards the end, because they might be more appropriate than to discuss later. I share my screen. Let's see.
Yes, sorry, Knut. I see Michael asked to speak, so I leave the floor to him first. So, Michael, I think you are enabled now to ask your question or comment.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, it just appeared. I did unmute myself. My name is Michael Haschke. I'm working for company DMT. We are part of the TÜV Nord group. Thanks very much for the excellent presentation. I would like to propose that there's also a bigger picture behind it. Standardization it's very good to have standards, but the reason why auditing companies such as my mother company, like the TÜV companies, they're really very interested in testing and auditing, because it's the auditing that really adds teeth to any standard. Because a standard only becomes valuable once it's being audited for industrial partners. For instance, I'm chairing the ISO PC 348 sustainable raw materials. As you can imagine, it's very sought after. Companies are meant to produce and process raw materials sustainably, and we have a major interest to implement and to audit companies across the world, so that they are recovering raw materials that we need for the green energy transition. So if you liaise with research companies, don't forget to liaise with the auditing companies, because they are the ones that are adding the teeth to the actual standard. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your comment. Sine?
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't completely agree with the standards only having teeth if they are audited, because there is still great value in the use of standards. For example, also for electricians or people doing building products and stuff like that. And then I also wanted to point out that we are aware in the standardization community, I'm from Danish Standards, to those of you who don't know me, that of course we also need to consider certification and auditing. And that's also why a little later on, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the recommendations from the HSBooster.eu project. And I can just mention here that one of the partners in this project is actually working with auditing and certification. So we are also including them in this process as well as we can, keeping in mind that I do not personally believe that all standardization or all standards should be certifiable, because there is also still a need for the rest, but we are aware of this. But thank you very much, Michael, for your comment.
Okay, thanks. So I think we can go back to Knut.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Maria. And first, thanks for all those which made this European Standardization panel possible. First of all, Gregor and his unit, and I have to mention Peter Droll, who just retired, who really also allowed this to do and to perform this pilot exercise. That's very important. I will come back to the support by StandICT. I have to mention also ETSI. Unfortunately, David Borthwazek is not available today, but also they endorsed the activity. And most important also the participants, those who filled out the quite lengthy questionnaire. That's also important to mention, because without your contribution, it wouldn't be possible. Gary already kind of really nicely set out the framework on the context of the whole exercise. But nevertheless, I will briefly repeat what were the objectives. some words about the implementation of the survey, and then mainly the results and also the recommendations. Livia already made some links, but I will present you the whole list a little bit more in depth to maybe also kick off then later the discussion after Sinya's contribution. Yeah, the objective was really to have a view from industry, because in the code of practice, especially the research organization, the researchers were addressed, and among us, there are also some kind of ambivalent voices from industry regarding the involvement of researchers and the role of research for developing standards, and therefore it was important also to get their view, because at the end, mainly industry is implementing the standards, and therefore that's very important, and to have their perspective, and this is also important to mention, because if there are concerns, one has to maybe reconsider this or make it better how to integrate research results in standards, and that's an issue, and also then to develop strategies for these actors to match really the supply of these standards with what is really demanded by industry, also to understand how to integrate them in a way that's effective and efficient within the standardization process, but also then related to the implementation of standards, and what are maybe then final effects, and then what are then the policies to be derived, especially regarding framework 10, but also very important is the regulatory framework, because we have also the option of mandates by the European Commission addressing specific topics, which are then sent to the European standards bodies to really then kick off a standardization process. This is also important to consider. That means these were the objectives defined in the terms of reference. How did we do that? We looked at the literature, and there's some tradition on looking at the interface between research and standardization, which also has been kicked off initially by Interest. Interest was an FP6 project, if I remember right, the few partners, and this kicked this off 15 years ago or even longer. And then we had different feedback rounds, especially also the Presidential Committee of StandICT were involved. ETSI was involved to collect feedback. We talked to industry experts, also to get their ideas on board. And at the end, we ended up with a quite long questionnaire. We started the distribution of the survey at the World Standards Day, October 14th, 23. And then following this launch, also Elena Santiago, the Director General, supported this activity by sending a letter to all the members. That means the national STOs, but all within the EU, but also the other ones. We had also a webinar together with StandICT Management Center with, I think, 70, 80 different participants. And then another webinar with SBS. Gergo distributed the survey among Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe project. And now I come also to important person, Lucy Kromer, who manages the German standardization panel. We also sent that out and to the addresses of the German standardization panel also in the week after October 14th. And together with our student Daniele, who set up the survey, and two former colleagues, we put then together the analysis and the report. Now looking at the sample, most of the respondents work really in R&D or executive management, especially in smaller companies, some in standardization departments and others in quality management. Due to the different approaches, we have a bias towards headquarters located in Germany. That's due to the fact that we didn't get the individual addresses by the other SEOs. Regarding the sectors, we have a strong focus on mechanical engineering, electrotechnical engineering, and chemical sectors, but also service industries and even experts from the public sector responded. Overall, the sample is very R&D intensive because 50% perform R&D and also have into product or process innovation, which is much above the average level which we see in the community innovation survey. And then also an important kind of new or maybe expected insight was that we asked for the first time for the age and the gender, and what we found out is that 60% of the experts responding are above 50. That means we have a massive demographic problem. And on the other hand, we have a quite biased gender balance here because less than 50% are female. But if you look at the composition of the speakers of today, it's good to see that the females are in the majority. Therefore, maybe we see a change in the near future. But this might be also an issue to be discussed towards the end, how to address this demographic development and how to involve female. And by the way, Maria, we had another webinar on women in ICT. And here we have to kind of work further on this topic, maybe to close the gap which is coming by getting more females into standardization. But this is a side comment, but an important side comment. Now about the main questions. Very important or very interesting and a little bit surprising from my perspective was at the end, the respondent said, okay, the input from own research, from the customer requirements, but also on policy or regulations are the most important driver for standardization processes. That means research is really on the same level to what the customer wants from the companies, but also what policy and the regulator wants from the companies. And that's an important kind of finding at first, because you have to consider this triangulation of the three aspects in a balanced way for also future kind of policies and strategies. Sure, for those from industry, the requirements from customers, but suppliers are likely a little bit more relevant than for the other respondents. But nevertheless, this is really a marginal difference. Now, for which types of standards is research most important? A little bit because we didn't know it before from other studies, it's most important for measurement and testing standards. It means here also the heavy research on metrology is certainly reflected here, but also then followed by environmental, interoperability, and health standards. Therefore, the differences are not very high with the measurement and testing standards, a little bit more kind of driven by research. What are the advantages the companies mentioned? The first is to have a free access to scientific insights. And this access is even further driven by current developments towards open access of research papers and publications. That's important. Also, to keep track with what's going on regarding the technical progress. And this is important for especially those areas where this progress is very dynamic, very fast. Therefore, that's an issue. Then for industry, also important insight is that they claim that they can leverage their own research results via standards for the development of own product and process innovations. That means that's very kind of important in the sense that it contributes or it confirms to our understanding that the integration of research and standardization makes sense in order to boost innovation also, not only in the company, but also on the macro level. Furthermore, standards are definitely keeping the markets open. That means they help to avoid dominant designs and dominant positions by by big players having maybe proprietary solutions. Therefore, the more kind of public research or research goes into standards, the less these kind of results can be misused by anti-competitive behavior. Sure, there are also some disadvantages. Some say, okay, but overall the disadvantages are compared to the advantages of much lower relevance. Yeah. Some complain that there's little support from other companies and stakeholders to have kind of own research results as the base of standards. Also, what's mentioned is that some research results might be a little bit too premature in order to implement them and integrate them into standards. Now, what should be done in order to improve this integration? Most important is that there is obviously not enough knowledge about the effects of standardization in higher education institutes. That means universities and other research organizations, but also companies are often not really aware of that, and therefore it's an indirect way to get more companies involved in research projects. Then more funding of standardization as a means of exploitation. That means for this knowledge valorization, which Diego explained to us. And what's already mentioned by Livia is there is some discussion, at least in some countries, to consider standardization expenditures into tax incentive regimes, which have been established by most European countries for research and development expenditures. I will come back to that later in the recommendations. The most relevant impacts of standards based on research results as input on innovation are kind of fast and easy access to market, especially European and international markets, and that's most important for industry. And the other point is that there's a higher confidence in innovative products and processes among consumers and customers, which has been already mentioned also by Diego. And furthermore, we get a wider and broader use and faster use of recognized methodologies and processes. Then there were some open questions about what are the needs in order to increase companies' engagement in standardization, because that's also an issue, and it's becoming even more relevant because the experts are getting quite scarce and rare, and there are bottlenecks, and therefore this is an issue. Industry says, okay, we need a better overview and easy access to existing standards. Yeah, there's currently the discussion about Malamud, which has been not really kind of considered in our survey, but it's an important kind of development which might have also an implication on this complaint. Then also an easy access to standardization activities and committees. For the outsiders, it's not so easy to get the access to the right committee. Still, the awareness of the benefits, limited internal resources and funding, also within industry, is an issue. The speed of standardization process is already mentioned as being relevant. That's not really new. But also within industry, interestingly, there's a little bit of need for more recognitions for the contributors. And there are different regimes in France. The contributors are listed, at least in the internet. Germany, there's currently the discussion whether to go this way or not. By the way, in China, this is done, an interesting aspect. Then also the next point, approaches to help companies to increase their competitiveness by strengthening their standard setting capabilities. First, the involvement should really follow a strategic approach. Standardization is not really generates not quick wins. This needs time and also passion. Therefore, you need a strategic approach. Then the standardization process really should follow timely what's going on also in the markets, but also in research. And very important and becoming probably more important in the future, a closer alignment of the standards with what's going on in the regulatory framework. We see that currently in the different AI and data acts, etc., where we need a better alignment. Last aspect here, what are the company's needs for better implementation of standardization through the collaboration between industry and science? Here, industry says, okay, the higher education institute, public research organization should increase their knowledge capacity incentives. We'll come back to that later. But also companies' capabilities to get effectively involved has to be strengthened. The communication capacities are needed in order to, especially in very complex topics, to find really easily and fast a consensus, and also to exploit the opportunities of having kind of interdisciplinary collaboration within standardization. Also sharing data and research findings is an issue. That means not only access to the final publications, but maybe even to what has been created before. That means data and research results. Monitoring of existing standards, whether they really are keeping track with what's going on in research and technology, that's an issue. SME needs should be reflected. And if all these things are taken together, then we might also get better collaboration standardization, which at the end helps to contribute to technical progress and innovation. That means, in summary, the results show that the customers' requirements and regulation, but also the input from their own research are the most relevant resources for standard development. And I think that's a very important message to push the further kind of alignment and integration of research into standardization. Then measurement and testing standards are benefiting most. The advantage is this free access and to keep really track what's going on in scientific progress. The challenges are really missing support from organizations, other companies, and also that some results might be premature, but overall these are not really highly valued. Now regarding the recommendations, sorry, these are the final recommendations. That means here there are some general recommendations and some are addressing industry, others the research organizations, third the SDOs, but also the funders, and finally other innovation policy activities. What's important is to include standardization into the definition of R&D innovation. That means in the OECD manuals, this is currently either explicitly excluded in the R&D manual or not really taken seriously in the Oslo manual. It's mentioned since 2018, but here some work has to be done in order also to have this topic established in these manuals, and these are more or less the Bibles for all the research and innovation policymakers. To improve the measurement, that means measurement is an issue. That means you have to have indicators and also evaluation systems which help, especially those which are active in standardization, to show their contributions and show how these contributions improve the performance of their organizations, be it a company or research organizations. Align the standardization strategies with the R&D strategies. That means here you need a standardization strategy. Many companies and also research organizations have an R&D strategy, but excuse me, but there are only very few, including the big players also in Germany, which have a specific standardization strategy, and that's really a must. And here I also work internally at Fraunhofer that we make here progress. Then we have the demographic challenge. Here, Livia already mentioned education training activities, and here we put the link to Edu for Standards also in the chat to have a look at what we are doing here. This is an answer to what are the European internal challenges, and I just read today about some Chinese activities in the field Therefore, we are also competing on the international level on this topic, and even the US government published a paper where education was key, yeah, in standardization to compete internationally. Yeah, raising awareness among companies also about the benefits of participating, which is also an issue. Yeah, help standardization or use standardization also for shaping the regulatory framework. That's an issue. And also look at what the SMEs in general, and especially the research active SMEs need, yeah? Because they also benefit very much from research-driven standardization, because they have an easy access to scientific results, and they have often really very intelligent ways to leverage their own research results into innovative products, including also products of higher quality. Then the next one is the research organizations here. Yeah, the awareness is raising, yeah, also due to the code of practice. I think that was an important cornerstone. We also have in Germany some positive developments, that especially the big organizations are now having the topic on the screen. But in universities, there's still kind of, yeah, there's room for improvement. This also needs funding, and we need performance indicators. And here, thanks, Livia, for pointing to this, yeah, new web page and initiative to link scientific publications to new standards. I think that's an important kind of visibility for researchers if their papers are cited, and we'll also present new research about that. And education, especially universities have to expand their activities, and here EDO for standards is an issue, and here especially female students and the gender topic is a very kind of, yeah, important aspects in order to address the forthcoming kind of demographic change or even challenge. Oops, what's now next one? Yeah, to standardization bodies, speed is an issue. Again, it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but agile processes are needed. Then the service portfolio, here some claim that maybe the SCOs have to also offer specific services to especially smaller research active organizations. The bigger ones, they can do that, but the smaller have some problems. Maybe also having new products, and the awareness of workshop agreements, for example, is still limited. We had one question in the survey. We didn't kind of included that in the final report, where it shows that still the big majority of the respondents do not know what a SEN workshop agreement is. Yeah, open source is an issue. There's still some work to go. Very difficult kind of, yeah, communities to integrate. And also look at the implementation of standards here, because if the technical progress is quite fast, there's likelihood that standards are quite outdated soon, and this is a I know it's not really a very kind of, yeah, fruitful activity to curate the existing stock of standards, but this is also necessary. Now, at the funding organizations, yeah, we should kind of have a continuation of what's already there, and also maybe an expansion regarding this, yeah, knowledge valorization activities related to standardization at the member states level. This is also an issue, especially some countries have some programs, but the majority doesn't, and still that's an issue. And also regarding higher education institutes and public research organizations, that they should also maybe, yeah, be considered, because they have a lack of knowledge and capacity, and they are also not in all areas, but still in many areas not well represented. And consider the needs of SMEs, and maybe also in the SME specific programs, standardization doesn't play yet a role, and that's maybe an issue for the future. Overall, this definition issue is an aspect, and the research tax credit is an issue I already touched, because here some countries have systems which might be expanded easily to the broader public, to the whole scheme of standardization activities. Others have not, but when they consider to introduce such programs, maybe that's an issue. In Germany, we have currently some discussion about the topic. Among us, I'm not yet too optimistic that we might here make a big move. Also, in other funding programs, standardization should play a systematic role. That's also recommended, and also regulation. The link to regulation is important, because here we have to consider the regulatory framework, and that's in the standardization activities. That means don't kind of create standards which are contradicting regulations and the other way around. And public procurement is also an interesting innovation policy instrument where research-based standards can play an important role, and maybe future procurement directive maybe should reflect that. In summary, there are big challenges, because as you see, very different stakeholders, and many stakeholders are addressed. It means you have to bring them all together. You have also various levels, at least the European and the national ones, sometimes regarding public procurers going down from the regional and the community level. We have many different strategy and policy areas. We have the research policy, the innovation policy, but also the regulatory policy, which might be important to coordinate. And that's not easy, because different stakeholders are involved, and therefore coordination is needed among different stakeholders, different instruments at different levels, and therefore we will have to still work on the topic. What are next steps? We are going to discuss with DG RTD about that. Good news is in Germany we continue the standardization panel, and we will have maybe also with other NFSPs discussion about multilateral collaborations, because that's maybe the other way compared to this top-down approach which we tried, which was successful, but not the way I wanted to kind of really succeed. Therefore, maybe some bilateral or multilateral attempts are needed. First talks have been done, and I know he's also with us. Usually from Finland has its activity, and I hope that we maybe have some chance to redo that in the near future. And that's it from my side. Here's the link to the report, which is out by the end of March. Therefore, again, many thanks for this opportunity to bring the different kind of aspects together, because time is running, and therefore it's good to have the chance. And it was the first public presentation of the results we had, and therefore, if somebody is interested in a replication, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Knut, for this comprehensive presentation. Before moving to Signe, I think it's good to stop for 1 minute to address some of the questions we got in the meantime. We have 4. Actually, we have 3 questions and a comment. Let's start with the question in the chat from Sandra from Portugal. This is directed to Gergo about possible replication of the survey in the future.
Yes, so indeed the branding of the exercise panel survey inherently means that this is not a one-off exercise, but we weren't entirely sure about the success of this exercise when the exercise was launched. Actually, it's a very fresh news that we got an analysis of our publications, and I just received it literally 3 minutes ago. We saw that in the publications of the DG RTD happening in the last 3 months. We are talking here about 66 publications. The panel survey has had showed an interest in terms of the page views. It is on the 5th place with 2008 views in the last basically not even 2 months. So I mean, this is actually a it's a fantastic success, and also many thanks to Knut also. Actually, to be frank, I'm positively surprised. So this is, but without this successful or huge interest, actually, which survey panel survey has triggered, I think this is indeed a very important exercise, and I think the leverage it may have is really important. Now that actually we have the questionnaire, which of course needs to be potentially tailored, but the networks, many thanks again to the support of the European Standardisation Organization, who supported us in reaching out to the different ecosystem players. I think this is indeed at my level. I could just simply say that I think it would make sense absolutely to repeat the exercise, but there is no official line yet about it. We need to reflect a little bit. The publication of the first edition happened only in the course of March. So in case there's a positive decision, of course, it has to be budgeted, etc. I'm personally very positive, and I hope that we will be able to come back to you with positive conclusions soon.
Thank you, Gergo, for your answer. Let's go also have a look at the ones we have in the Q&A box. These are not, I think, directed to anyone particularly. So anyone from the panelists who wants to comment or provide an answer, just raise your hand or speak directly. So we have a question from Yussi asking about potential sources to compare standardization education offerings. I don't think there is one unique source. Anyone can suggest many. So I don't know if anyone wants to address or write directly in the chat, because people online can see your answer. Then we have a question by Uwe regarding how to improve contribution of research projects, Horizon projects, to standards. And the third is a comment, you know, on the struggles of SMEs in contributing, specifically in construction sector, to standards and accessing standards. I don't know if anyone wants to take these now or maybe later. Let me know what you prefer.
I can maybe say a few words about Uwe questions. So in order to increase the relevance of standardization in Horizon Europe projects, what we are trying to do is trying to proactively influence upcoming work program and calls to make sure that whenever it's relevant, contributions to standardization is mentioned as one of the objectives that the project consortium should pursue, even ideally mentioning which is the technical committees that is relevant in the area, what are the relevant standards already published, so that there is a trigger for the project proposal that will apply to consider standardization as a component of the research project. And the second aspect where we are trying to work on is make sure that research projects are aware of what are the tools for integrating with standardization and get support when needed. And this is especially what initiative like HSBooster is doing, and you will hear the presentation from Signe right now, I think. I don't know if this is replying to the question, but yeah, otherwise happy to exchange bilaterally over.
Thanks, Livia. So let's wait for Uwe comment in case he has any. We'll see it. And one of the other questions I think got replied because it disappeared. Okay, so for now I think let's go on with Sine, and then we'll have also a few more minutes after your presentation for additional eventual questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. I hope you can see my slides and hear me well. First of all, my name is Sine Netbø. I am from Danish Standards, but today I am representing HSBooster.eu, which is a European funded project. I wanted to begin my presentation with just a little bit about HSBooster.eu and what is this project about. And then I'm going to spend most of the time talking a little bit about the recommendations that we are developing in HSBooster.eu. So first of all, what exactly is HSBooster.eu? I just want to make sure that everybody knew where these recommendations were coming from. So we are a coordination and support action funded under Horizon Europe. We are running from April 2022 until September 2024. We have a budget of roughly 2 million, and we of course have partners from different European countries, here being Denmark, Spain, Italy, Ireland, and Serbia. I have listed in the bottom of the slide here the different partners. As you can see, the consortium is a mix between organizations and companies, but also universities, a standard body. And then finally, as mentioned a little bit earlier, we also have STS as a partner who are focusing on certification and audits. So I think we are quite well representing many of the different stakeholders that are important when linking research, innovation, and standardization. As mentioned by Gergo in the beginning of this presentation today, one of the main activities that the Commission are doing in promoting research, innovation, and standardization links is the code of practice, but there's also the standardization booster. You should see HSBooster.eu as a pilot for helping in developing what could such a booster look like also in the future. Because as mentioned, HSBooster is a project, but we would of course like to see such a booster be a more permanent element from the Commission in helping research innovation projects linked with standardization. So the concept we have developed in HSBooster.eu, the main part is that we are actually linking standardization experts with research innovation projects. That means that research innovation projects, they can apply for getting consultation and advice from HSBooster.eu. Because as you, I'm sure, are well aware already, many research innovation projects are unaware of how they can address standardization and also about which are the main deliverables that can help them benefit from standardization in their projects. So of course, what we would like for them to have a chance to do is gain some knowledge, meet with these standardization experts that we can link them with. We have a quite big pool of experts. We have almost 200 experts that are ready to give advice for research innovation projects about linking with standardization. Also, there's the opportunity to dive into relevant standards. I know something that's concerning many persons, including in the research innovation world, is access to standards. But via HSBooster.eu, we are also helping these projects gain access to the main standards that are relevant within their projects. We can also help in regard to analyzing standardization potential. So when a project, for example, approaches us, they might have an idea that they should contribute to standardization somehow, but not be completely sure how to. And this is how we can help in regard to analyzing this, and then also developing a standardization strategy. And I just also want to mention that there are several very good initiatives out there right now that can help research innovation and also others link with standardization. There's, for example, as you know, StandICT, There's also HSBooster. We also have Edu for Standards. So we are many initiatives out there who can help in case anyone out there would like to have some support, either if you are in a research and innovation project or somewhere else. I can just mention the way that we are supplementing this ecosystem is that where, for example, StandICT are focusing, of course, most on ICT, then HSBooster focuses on many different areas that are priorities in Europe, such as health, resilience, sustainable digitalization, the European green transition, smart cities, and circular economy. So that means that any project that is within the key priorities within Europe can be able to get support from HSBooster.eu. Some of the projects that have gotten these services from us, where they have applied and got some expert feedback on what they should do in regards to standardization, have given us some feedback. I just wanted to mention just a little bit of it here because it's quite relevant in regard to the recommendations I'm going to provide you with in a second. The first one I have here is, for example, this project now has a much better understanding of the impact that they can have on standards, and also which standards should be considered. And here is one of the things that I always would like to mention in regard to working with standards, is that you have to remember that standardization can be a part of the entirety of a project. For example, in the beginning of a research innovation project, it's quite relevant to find out what are the existing standards out there, what can contribute, and also in regard to what are the standards that are relevant for the different technologies or processes that we are developing in this particular project. Then oftentimes, as the project progresses and you have some more research and innovation results, it becomes more relevant to actually contribute to standardization. So that means that, for example, people often ask us, well, at what time should I apply for such a booster service? And the answer is actually preferably several times, because it makes sense to apply for a booster service at the beginning of the project to find out what are the relevant standards for me. And also later on, as the project is progressing, to find out, well, where can I then contribute and what's going on in standardization right now. And then also, we have here, I'm just going to skip the blue one and go straight to the green one, stating here that, of course, one of the very interesting elements here is also linking with Standardization Development Organizations, or SDOs. And this particular project, it was mentioned a little bit earlier by Knut Blind, that many organizations still do not know what a SEN workshop agreement is, or how you can develop one, because they are highly relevant for research innovation, because it's a fast way to develop a pre-normative or standardization document. And here we can also support in regard to finding out, well, how can we actually develop a SEN workshop agreement in our project so we have a very clear deliverable and impact in the end on the world of standardization. And then the final thing I wanted to mention before jumping into the recommendations is that we also have a training academy. There were already some questions in the chat in regard to educational material. There are, I would say, quite a few platforms out there where you can find material about standardization. What we have in HSBooster is targeted toward the research and innovation community. So that means that the material that you can find here is mostly relevant for persons working in research and innovation. It doesn't matter if they are, for example, young researchers at a university or more established persons in a company. It is still relevant if you are working with research and innovation. We have some modules for self-learning. We also have a lot of webinars that I can recommend that are quite interesting to watch. Also addressing a little bit the question we had earlier about research innovation projects not contributing to standardization so much. I would say this is also getting better. more and more projects are contributed to standardization. And there are also examples of this in these webinars, where you, for example, can hear about a project that has developed a SEN workshop agreement. You can hear about projects developing technical specifications and so on. So you can get an idea of how can we actually, in practice, contribute to standardization. We also have some online training and some gaming sessions. And you can find it all at the link that we have on the screen here. So please feel free to go in and take a look if you are interested in educational material specifically targeted toward research innovation community. But with that short introduction about HSBooster, I want to jump directly into these recommendations that we are developing. The reason why I am saying developing is because they are not completely finished yet. We have developed a first draft of these high-level recommendations. And here I would like to state that these recommendations are for what could such a booster look like in the future. So if we are to have a more, I would say, stable standardization booster that can link or help research innovation projects in the future, what could that look like based on the experiences from HSBooster? So the first version we have, you can see a little picture of it on the right side, are based solely on the learnings we have from the project partners. But we are currently also working on the final edition of the recommendations. We already had several workshops with different key stakeholders, such as standardization organization, projects, and so on, where they have given us their ideas for what such a future booster could look like. This is due in September, where we will have the final version. So I also encourage you today, if you have some comments for any of the elements that I'm going to talk about in a second, please let me know. Either now you can raise your hand or put it in the chat, or you're also very welcome to contact me because we still have a little bit of time before we have to deliver the final recommendations, and the more input we can get, the better. So, after analyzing the first 2 years of HSBooster.eu, we have come up with 7 main recommendations that I have here. The first one is about framework and resources. The second one is about cooperation between key stakeholders. The third one is about the premium service. And by premium service, the service we are talking about here is the one that I mentioned earlier, where we link an expert with a research innovation project so they can cooperate on how to best contribute to standardization or use standards or so on. We also have tools and services, training academy, framework program, and annual union work program. And then finally, scaling. I'll get more into detail what we mean about this recommendation. I just wanted to show, first of all, which are the same 7 main recommendations that we have gotten out of the first 2 years of the project. So the first one about framework and resources. We believe that a future booster should, of course, mature the concept that has already been developed, but also maintain, of course, a high service level. This means that we have to have a very clear scope and framework. We need to know exactly what it is that we're aiming at. And also in regard to resources, then we would at least like to see this become a more long-term or stable project that is carried out either by another project or by the Commission for a longer time periods. We would also like to see, of course, external funding also in regard to these, because as mentioned, there can be some issues with, for example, access to standards. It could also, for example, be that a research innovation project has been running for maybe a year. They find out that it's quite important for them to contribute to standardization. They do a gap analysis and find out there is no standardization going on, so they would like to develop a SEN workshop agreement. What we would also like to see that we can do in the future is for these projects who have, in the beginning of the project, not anticipated standardization activities or not put in the budget, we should be able to help them with allocating budget, for example, for developing SEN workshop agreements and supporting other standardization activities that otherwise would not happen if this service was not in place. Of course, as you know, we are not an island. We have to cooperate, all of us, if we want to actually be successful with this. And this is why the second recommendation is about cooperation between key stakeholders. We would like to see a long-term sustainable link between research, innovation, and standardization. This, of course, needs to have cooperation. So that means that we have to make sure that in the future, such a booster is a cooperation between the booster, the commission, standardization communities, such as technical committees and so on, and also the beneficiaries, such as research innovation projects. One element that, for example, we believe could be a part of such a booster is a forum where we can discuss different aspects of linking research and innovation, where we can welcome all of these different key stakeholders, because they all need to be aboard if we would like to be successful with this. Then there's the premium service that has been developed in HSBooster.eu. It has been quite successful in the regard that the projects that have received this service are giving it quite a high score. They are very happy about the advice that they can get from experts that can help them on their standardization route. So we would like to see a continuation of this service in one form or another. One thing we've had a little bit of issues with, I think that's not a secret, that awareness is still quite low in the research innovation community. So that means that, of course, we need to have much more awareness about that such a service exists for us to be able to give even more of these services out in the future. Moving on, tools and services. This is a little bit linked to the previous recommendations. We have, of course, also in HSBooster.eu developed several tools and services. Many of these can be carried on in a new service once HSBooster.eu finalizes. So we do believe that these should be developed, promoted, and utilized because there's been put a lot of work into developing these different tools. And they have a lot of potential that still hasn't been completely used. One thing I would like to stress here is one of the tools that we are developing is what we call a standardization orientation tool. You can find it already in a first version online on our platform. It is HSBooster.eu. And this platform or this tool, I firmly believe can be used, for example, if someone wants to make a proposal for a research innovation project, and they're not sure exactly how this project can contribute to standardization, then they can use this tool to improve their project application or proposal to make sure that they are integrating standardization from the beginning. So it's not something that they discover later on in the project, but it's already integrated at the beginning of the proposal before they get this funding. As mentioned, we also have this training academy that we would like to see continued. One thing that is missing now, because it's still very young, this training academy, we would like to have some more data tracking and feedback on the training academy. So if any of you out there are using the training academy or take a look at it and have some feedback for us, please let us know. Because we, of course, would like to improve this. And if there are any gaps or anything that you think are missing from this, also please let us know so we can make sure that this is as complete as possible in helping research innovation linking with standardization. And this one, I think, is very fundamental. This is a recommendation that we believe that framework programs and the annual union work program should be linked. To those of you who don't know what the annual union work program is, this is the European Commission standardization priorities. This is developed each year. We would like to see a systematic integration of standardization in framework programs. And then we would very much like to see full incorporation of standardization mentioned in all calls that are related to the annual union work program. because that means that we can ensure that research innovation projects that are focusing on these key European priorities also address standardization. And finally, there's of course scaling. I would say HSBooster.eu was the first child, so to speak, in regard to a booster service. We would like to see it grow tremendously, so we can actually give this service to many, many more projects out there. That means also that we would like to see a full integration at member state level. We would also like to have some mechanisms, for example, linking with multipliers, such as technology transfer centers and so on, in order to make sure that as many projects as out there can benefit from such a service. So these are the first 7 recommendations that we have developed. As mentioned, they are still work in progress. So I hope that if any of you out there have any comments for us, please do let us know so we can improve them and make sure that this booster is as good as possible in the future. The final thing I just wanted to mention before ending my presentation here today is that the final recommendations will be published by early September 2024. I can just mention that the draft recommendations that I just talked about are not publicly available, but if you would like to see them anyway, then let us know, send us an email and we will send them to you. But for the final recommendations, there will be an event in Brussels. The expected date is the 17th of September. It is still to be completely determined if this will be the date, but please do put it in your calendars. And then we will, of course, as soon as possible, establish this date. I've here called it Advancing Together, Creating Impact Through Research, Innovation, and Standards, because that is really what we're doing. We're creating an impact. We cannot do it alone. We need to make sure that we have the multipliers, the large and small organizations, standardization, development organizations, industry, and so on in place and cooperating for us to actually reach this very ambitious target. So that's what I wanted to say. As mentioned, you will get the presentations. Here are my contact details. So in case you have any questions that are not answered here today, please do let me know, and I'll be more than happy to answer it. So I'll just stop my share. And Maria, do we have any feedback or comments?
Thank you, Sine. So looking at the Q&A, we have no new questions. One stays, one comment that we had before, and then there was a comment from Rafael highlighting the work of StandICT.eu, another of the projects that are in the standardization ecosystem. I don't see, other questions, but let's leave, 1 minute if anyone has anything to add. I'd like to, in the meantime, thank all the participants for the comments you've raised during the event and the questions and the also opinions that came through the chat. Sine mentioned this event in September. We have others that I'd like to put to your attention in StandICT. And if there are others that the audience or the other speakers want to inform, feel free also to use the chat to do this. So we have next event on geopolitics of ICT standardization with a focus on India next week. Then we have an event, a joint event of HSBooster and StandICT. We cooperate a lot. That's focused on ICT standards and human rights, a very novel topic. And I'll put a link also here. And then there is an important conference in June where HSBooster, StandICT, and Edu4Standards will go, which is EUOS. And I'll put the link to this conference as well in the chat. And it's very much focused on education trainings, so aligned with today's discussions. Then, thanks, Nick. We have another event put in the chat. The chat will be saved, and we will post summary news piece after this event to discuss, to of course upload the presentation and summarize the main highlights. We'll put the link also to these useful resources that we have in the chat. In the meantime, I don't see other comments and questions, so I think that's all for today. Of course, you can reach out to our speakers directly. They've put their contacts in the presentation you will find on StandICT website. So for any follow-up on the survey or any of the other initiatives that have been presented, feel free to contact any of us when you want. Thanks to everyone again, and I wish you a happy continuation of the day and see you in the next events. Thanks again.